the TIMFD podcast. Today is my favorite day is about appreciating every day as it comes, no matter what life throws at us. We hope that this podcast speaks to you. And if it does, please like, share, and comment. Now let's find out why today is our favorite day this week.
Hey everybody, got a new person here today, and that is Rashad Paulding. And Rashad's going to be talking to us about a couple of different things. But Rashad first, want to make sure that we understand something. Rashad and I are different. Would you agree with that?
A little bit.
A little bit, just a tad.
Yeah.
We come from different cultures, different backgrounds of the United States, and I'm a little older, which is kind of a drag.
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
A little bit.
You are getting older.
I am. I let the gray hair show today.
I know, you did. You did a good job at that. Thank you for not making me feel too old.
Nah.
All right. So, Rashad, first of all, just tell us about your family and who do you work for and that kind of thing.
Sure. So, I'm married to Rashad Paulding. She's my beautiful wife of 25 years.
Congrats.
We got two lovely but challenging kids, RJ and Raina. And
he's fortunate to have those kind of kids. Go ahead.
Sure, they balance each other out.
They do.
Yes, I work at a company called Smith's Interconnect.
Yep.
It's primarily a defense contractor, right down near the airport. So,
and you've kind of done this kind of work for a while.
For a while.
Yeah. And so Rashad and I, what happened is about 3 weeks ago, Charlie Kirk was shot. And when that happened, it triggered me, and I'll tell you more about that later on. But what it did is I said, I need to talk about this in our church service. So that's what I ended up doing. I ended up changing the entire sermon 2 days prior to it and throwing an insert into our sermon notes and doing it. One of the statements that I brought up was about that you did not see a bunch of people burning things and knocking things down, that kind of stuff, here in the United States. And I brought up what happened with George Floyd. When George Floyd was killed, there was obviously a lot of riots that went on. There was a lot of other stuff going on at that time too, and then the BLM movement took place and all that kind of stuff. But I said, hey, at least we didn't see riots like that. Rashad, being Rashad, calls me up and goes, can we talk?
Yes.
And I went, perfect, let's do this. And so you had brought up some things which I went, oh, that makes total sense. I come from what I would call my wife would call it a lower slums middle class. It was not that. Okay. It was a lower middle class community of different types of people in the San Jose area. So that's my background. Your background is from?
So I was actually born in Alexandria, Louisiana.
Yes.
And I've lived the majority of my life in Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore.
Yep.
So a big city. So we both come from big cities, but mostly we're both suburb kids.
Yes.
Different suburbs, but we're both suburbs kids.
Yep.
So for Rashad, he said, hey, I really want to talk to you about when those words you brought up, how it affects the Black community, how it affected me. And so could you explain that really quick? And then we'll get back into our backgrounds and everything else.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
So obviously, we love you.
Yeah.
Me and the family, we love you guys. Obviously we come here for a reason, right? So me and my wife, we kind of talked over, and I'm typically not the type of person to stand on platforms like that. That's not my MO. However, I guess the point that I kind of focused on was the aftermath.
Yes.
Right. And I'm like, we're not talking about what led up to that.
Yes.
And so I guess for me, going through a lot of these different movements and so forth, I always hear the focus on the reaction versus the cause.
Yes. And that, I hope you understand what he's saying. What he's saying is that we are not, what he was bringing up is, yes, these things happened, but what was the reason behind these things and what was going on in the history?
Correct.
So could you give me your perspective? Again, you're one Black man in a very large community, so
Correct.
We're not saying that you're speaking for everyone.
Correct.
Okay. But can you tell us at least your thoughts on this?
Okay. So obviously coming to, I would say, a diverse church, however, still predominantly white.
Yep.
My perspective was that people can't see why, as a Black person, we'd be enraged about things of that nature.
Yes.
it kind of gets to the point where you're like, you're going through different situations. You have the whole Colin Kaepernick and NFL kneeling.
Yep.
You have the whole Trayvon Martin issue. I'm sorry. You have the George Floyd issue, and you're dealing with all these systemic issues, if you will. And I guess the part that really got me was that you were very, very passionate about Charlie Kirk getting shot.
Very much so. Yeah.
And I understood that.
Yep.
But I also understood that it was because you could relate to him.
Yes.
Right. Whereas though I'm like, I can relate to these other issues, and I'm like, I don't hear that being talked about because obviously, I don't fault you, but I'm like, you're not as close to it. It doesn't, so it's not as triggering. So when I hear a message like that going out to the congregation that we have, I'm like, okay, you also got to remember you have a diverse congregation. So it's not going to be received the same because it's passionate to you. It's not going to be received by somebody like myself as much. Like I told you, I'd never heard of Charlie Kirk before this happened.
Yes. And what was interesting is that, like obviously I never heard of George Floyd. No one did before this.
Correct.
But and I never really heard of BLM when it first came out. And for me, I was asked to get involved with the BLM movement when it first took place because of what was going on. And it was mostly what I heard from, and there was a group of black pastors that came to me and talked to me about this. And they said, we would like you to get behind this. And I said, well, have you guys read the website of them?
Yeah.
And they really didn't. And they when I showed it to them, they said, oh my goodness, this has nothing to do with us.
No.
And it didn't. But I didn't grasp onto what was going on years prior to this that came to this place, right? So let's give an example that I think that one example of many, but one example of just the living of where you were at. Okay, let's talk about you lived in the suburbs, Baltimore suburbs.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice suburbs. Primarily black, but middle class people, right?
Definitely.
I mean, the way your dad was educated was a little bit more upper class than my community, but that's okay. Your dad had an education, mine didn't. But and God bless him. LSU, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Does he still root for?
Oh, definitely. When you see my father nine and a half times out of 10, he's wearing LSU gear.
Stuff. Well, it makes sense. If I went to LSU, I'd do the same thing.
Yes.
So, but you had this community going on, and then Baltimore did something that honestly I never experienced, and I don't think they would have ever done it to our community. So, can you kind of talk about that real quick, so you can get an idea?
Yeah. So it's still ongoing.
Wow.
So you basically have a gentrifying of the inner city.
Now, what does that mean, gentrified? Tell me what that means.
Basically, inner city Baltimore and all the surrounding communities are primarily poor, primarily black.
Okay.
You basically have companies that are coming through. They're basically making the area more appealing towards a broader audience. Whether it's white, whether it's Hispanic, whoever, but you're looking at
wealthier people.
Okay. And so when you're doing that, you're displacing all the poverty-stricken people.
Got it.
And you're making it whereas these areas that they grew up in, they lived majority of their lives, they can no longer even afford to live there anymore.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And so it's funny, like I actually went back home not even a year ago, and some of the areas that were really bad, all of a sudden you see people out, you see maybe your middle-aged white person out there running around with their dog, walking their dog and everything.
Wow.
Well, at a glance, what's wrong with that? Well, it wasn't that long ago where this was a down-ridden neighborhood where, okay, if you're out after dark, you're probably up to no good and everything. Okay. But now it's to the point now the neighborhood is so safe that, okay, this person can actually just be out just walking their dog.
Just going walking around.
Exactly. So you were like, well, what's wrong with it? Again, what are you doing with the people who actually grew up in that neighborhood?
Yeah, where did they go?
Where did they go?
And where did they go in your instance, what you saw and experienced as a kid?
So when I was younger and everything, they had a lot of projects in Baltimore. Like I said, low income, okay? You have these high-rise, think of like a gigantic hotel, right? But it's not a hotel. These are where people live at, less than 1,000 square feet, but they got generations living in one household because, you don't have any money.
And so they stay in this generational issue and they don't know how to get out of it.
Well, you only know what
you've
you're
been taught and what you know.
You only know what you've been exposed to.
Yeah. And so what happened with, just in your experience, they moved the people into your community, didn't they?
Correct.
With townhomes and stuff like that? Or
So they tore it down, and they basically pushed all the subsidized recipients more into the county.
Okay.
So think of here in Tampa, we're not in the inner city of Tampa.
We're in Odessa right now.
Yeah.
So got a house farm or a horse farm right across the street from us.
Yeah. So think of like we'll say the West Chase area.
Okay.
Right. And let's say you take all the people who are living over in East Tampa, Jackson Heights, and things like that, where you have low income, and then say we're going to tear this down. We're going to put housing that you can't afford there. Oh, by the way, we're going to sit there and make it in West Chase, where you couldn't afford to live at, we'll put you there because we're subsidizing 95% of your rent.
Wow.
What do you think happens to
that neighborhood?
The neighborhood that when I moved there, I said, I love the way this neighborhood looks. This is the type of neighborhood I want to live in.
Yep.
And then you take somebody who can't truly afford to live there.
Yep.
And say, boom, that's your new next door neighbor. What type of appreciation do you think they have for that neighborhood that you had before they got there?
None. Zero. And so that's what ended up happening with your neighborhood.
Yes.
And so here's one issue, just one, but I want you to give another one so you get a perspective of this. And everybody has different perspectives. I know that some are going to watch this who have a Hispanic background. They go, I was from the inner city too. I get it. I understand that. So if you want to come on the podcast, we'll have that person on too.
Yes.
Right? So please tell me. But we're giving a different perspective here. So Rashad, young black man out after 12. What happens in the community that you were in? Because you told me of a time where you got stopped. Well,
that was actually when I went into the city.
No way.
Yeah.
So that was in the city itself.
That was in the city.
Okay.
So
you went to the nice area.
No, I went to the bad area.
Oh, you went to the bad area.
I went to the bad area. So you got to remember, I grew up in the night. So when all this happened, this is after I actually moved out. This is me going back home, and I'm like looking at the neighborhood go down.
What's happening?
Yeah, right. Whereas when I first was there, it was like you had to make money to really live there. I mean, I like to tell people when my father moved there, the late 80s. His rent that he was paying for a 2-bedroom apartment was close to $1,000 back then.
Wow.
Just to kind of put it in perspective, monetarily, this is what he was paying to live in this neighborhood.
That was big.
Okay. And so when I was a teenager, I guess it was 19, 20, I had a pretty nice car.
Yeah.
I had a 1990 Acura Legend Coupe.
Oh, nice.
Candy apple red.
Nice. You're a car guy. So
I'm a car guy, and I've always had a car guy. I always had a lot of cars. And, being a young black man, everybody looked and said, well, how are you able to afford this car?
Oh.
Right? They just assumed that I was a drug dealer.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And this one particular night, I got a couple friends, and we were just driving. They wanted to go to the hood. Right? And so I was driving. I didn't do anything wrong whatsoever. They just seen a young black male driving a nice car.
Yep.
They immediately pulled me over. Didn't really give me a reason. And I was too young to understand, that they needed to have a reason to pull me over. But I was also taught that you don't
mess with any authority.
You don't do that. Right?
Yeah.
So, we went through this whole ordeal. They had us pulled out the car. It's middle of the winter, so at this point it's probably about 30 to 40 degrees outside. And because we're riding in a car, we don't have on big coats and everything. And they're searching my car. They was like, well, can we search your car? I'm like, sure, go ahead.
Why not?
I don't have anything. And they tore my car apart looking for drugs. They didn't find any. And they was like, well, they looked at my license and they seen that my address was in the county.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you doing over here?
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're just driving around. You're in the wrong part of town is what they told me. So they searched my car. They didn't find anything. And mind you, it's probably about 3 or 4 cop cars there.
Wow.
And they're all milling around us, and there's 4 of us. And we're just sitting on the curb freezing and everything. Mm. And then finally, when they got exhausted and said they really don't have anything, they told us, like, you better get in the car and go home.
Yeah.
Right? So me and my 3 friends, we got up, we got in the car, and To this day, I have no idea why my one friend did it. He was riding in the passenger seat. He had a piece of paper that was balled up in his hand that we just kind of fumbling with. I went to go put the car in the drive, and his hand was hanging out the window, and he just dropped the piece of paper. And the cop that was standing right on top immediately screamed, "Put the car in park," yanked him out the car.
Oh my gosh.
And searched him. And unfortunately for him, he actually did have some weed in his boot.
No.
And they immediately locked him up.
Oh, no.
But what drove it was because he had a piece of paper in his hand that it wasn't a full sheet of paper. It was just a little piece of, it might have been some gum wrapper, and he just dropped it. And that triggered him to say, put the car in park so they could take him out the car.
Yep.
So.
Man. And so, yeah, police officers, I had 2 uncles that were police officers, and they would be triggered by anything and everything, it seemed like, and always looked at the worst of most people as just did that. But for you guys got stopped. Where if I was going in that same area at your age, let's say I was the same age, my dad did tell me, David, because of your long hair, you got to be careful. I mean, that's what he just says, and you better be respectful to police officers when and if they stop you. I got stopped one time late at night, but they didn't pull me out of my car. They didn't do anything. They looked at my license, told me, what the heck are you doing out this late?
Yep.
And I remember my coaches saying, nothing good goes on after 12 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to be getting caught doing anything like that again. But I didn't have to experience that.
Right.
You did. And that is part of what we're kind of talking about here. I'm not justifying anything. What I'm saying is that a community has gone through a lot over the years. And some of it has been politically motivated to do that.
Correct.
LBJ very famously said when he brought in his whole movement of bringing on the new society and stuff, was that I can have the black community for the next 50 years. I mean, that was his famous line, because I'm going to give them everything they want. Most of them won't have to work, and we'll be able to have their vote.
Correct.
Forever. And that's funny, because the Democrat party is the party of a lot of not so good things over the years. But in the 60s, it changed.
Yeah.
Something changed. Eisenhower actually started the whole equal rights stuff. He was the one that started that whole thing. It got to Kennedy. And then from Kennedy, obviously his death, LBJ was able to get everything accomplished. And that opened up the doors for the black community, historically, to be able to kind of be Democrat. Now, when I first took over this church, there were some people that were in their 70s, white as white can be.
Yep.
And they were complete Democrats.
Yep.
And I was going, why would you be a Democrat? I mean, I'm going, why would you be a Democrat? I go, they're standing for abortion. Right?
Yep.
Why would the black community at all support anybody? I'm just asking you, why would the black community, Hispanic community, and poor white people support anything with a group that would say abortion is something we want to have happen, since 25% of all abortions are black kids? I don't know why. Is it? And that's why I'm trying to kind of, what do you think, or why do you think? Why would a community support a party that is for very fluid sexuality and over 70 sexes, at least that they're defining? Why would a community do that? And because, let's face it, a large percentage of the black community votes Democrat.
Yeah.
And then my third one, and then you can answer this after I do it. My third one would be, especially when I talk to these black pastors, why would you support any group that would be wanting to demean marriage and have not the marriage of one man, one woman, but anything? And honestly, someone can marry themselves now. They could put an X and say they're an X.
Go figure.
So, so that's my question to you. So there's my question. I know you're not like you can't have all the answers, but why are you in a church like this that is conservative as a black man coming from Baltimore? I mean, let's face it, that's almost an oxymoron. Would you agree that that's not normal?
Definitely is.
Okay.
So to be very clear,
yes, I
am a conservative registered Republican.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right. Yes.
You're even stranger then.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, And I only like to take stabs at it. I mean, coming from the black community where everything is stripped from you.
Yes.
You know, not having rights and things like that. Now you have a government official who are basically saying, I will give you something. That's potentially where it may start at. You may not understand what the strings are. You may not understand what you're actually sacrificing for this free gift. But I can only speculate that's where it initially comes from, that you're willing to help me.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Because I have nothing. I can't do nothing for myself. And bigger than that, I don't have a voice for myself. And you're saying that you're willing to be that voice for me.
Right.
I can only imagine that's probably how it started.
Okay.
Is that I have somebody who has a voice who says they're willing to speak on my behalf. Right? As far as the abortion and things of that nature, I mean, let's be honest. It just basically allows you to be irresponsible.
Okay.
That's my personal opinion.
Okay.
It absolves you from your accountability, you know, and I speak on it at work all the time. You know, everybody wants to be held, they want people to be held accountable, but it's gotten to the point where it's more of a buzzword, you know.
Oh, okay.
It is. It really is, because as soon as you truly hold people accountable, all of a sudden, no, I didn't do anything wrong. I was talking about him over there. They're the ones doing the job wrong. Mm. But I truly think that's probably where it started from, is that you gave a voice to the voiceless in order to get that vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they did. And here's the wild part. It's now been 50, almost 60 years. Mm-hmm. Actually, more than that now. 65 was when the civil rights. I'm trying to remember. I think it was 65. 65, 66, somewhere around there. We're now at 2025, and generally the black community is not in a great place. Still to this day. So I even had, like I said, I asked this older white couple, why do you vote Democrat when these are things, and they're Christians. They say they're Christians. I said, how can you vote that way? And they said, I always have. Yeah.
I found that out as well in the black community. I mean, I was one of those people.
Okay.
I literally voted Democrat because everybody...
That's what you did.
That's what you did.
Okay. That makes sense, and I've heard that a lot.
What changed for me was when I decided to start educating myself.
Okay. Tell me about that.
So... I started educating myself, believe it or not, I would say probably just before Obama's first term.
Okay.
Right? And I remember working at my last job. He was an old white guy. He was a pasty white guy. Okay.
At least I'm not pasty. That's at least he says that.
He was pasty. And we used to have these talks, and I'm like, you're going to pay me to listen to you? Fine, whatever.
Sure.
Right? And he fancied himself a libertarian.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Yep. But he was very right in his thinking. Okay. But I was sitting listening, talking to him, and you know, the funny thing is, it was at one point he actually tried to talk to me and others about the plight of the black man. And I'm like,
a white man talking about the plight of the black man?
An old white man talking about the plight of the black man.
So tell me how he got away with doing it.
Well, so first and foremost, like I said, I usually don't talk on platforms like that. I'm like, as far as I feel, you're going to feel the way you feel regardless of what I say. So you know what? I got better things to waste my energy on.
Yep.
Period. However, I was sitting listening talk to him and so forth. And then at one point we were talking about voting. And we was talking about how can the black population vote in such a large block. He said, statistically, it's an anomaly.
It is.
And so as we talked about it, I said, you know what, let me look into this for myself. And, you know, what I found, I looked at every major city that had a large black population. They voted in like these astronomical blocks. And I said, okay, well, if you think about it, you have the white population. They don't vote us in such a big block. No. You have red states, you have blue states and so forth. But however, you may have 70% that are red, 30% that are blue, 60-40.
Yep. Very
rarely is it 95-5.
No.
But across multiple cities, I've seen they voted that way. And then so you got to think of yourself like, there is no way in the world that huge block of people all think the same exact way. And the only thing I could come up with is the fact that they were like me. They just didn't educate themselves. Well, my parents voted Democrat, their parents voted Democrat, and so forth and so forth. But if you actually looked at the core issues without understanding, okay, is this a red issue or a blue issue?
Yeah.
You might tend to vote the other way.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I found out.
Interesting. Okay. And so you as a conservative, in your family in general, are you one of the few or many?
Yes.
You're one of the very few.
One of the very few. Okay. I would say probably my family and my father.
Okay.
My father, he's conservative.
Okay.
And truth be told, I didn't realize he was conservative until very late on in life. And I'm like, oh, that explains a lot.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
I remember even when I voted for Obama, the first term, I didn't consider myself a Republican at that point.
Yeah.
However, I looked at him like, this could potentially be the first black president.
Yep.
However, I don't want to just vote for
just because of his color.
Right. And people will say, well, you know, why wouldn't you? And my line of thinking was a little different than most. Mm-hmm. What if I help vote the first black man into office and he's a total idiot? What's the likelihood of another black man making it to office?
0.
Right? But
well, he was not an idiot.
But he was an idiot.
Was brilliant.
He was a good talker.
I didn't agree with his views.
He was a good talker.
Yes, he is.
But I remember I actually talked to my father about it, and he's like, he's nothing more than a figurehead.
Yeah.
Those were my father's exact words.
Wow, really?
He's nothing more than a figurehead. What makes you think that he's going to do or say anything that's of his own thinking? Mm. And so I actually started doing some studies. I took a couple like blind surveys online, you know, when he was going against McCain and so forth. And I'm like, man, he looks like he's about to fall over and die and everything.
No kidding.
And when I took the surveys, I found out that by this much I aligned with Obama. Mm-hmm. So I voted for Obama the first term. And then when I looked at the first term, I'm like, this guy's a figure. He talks a good game, but I'm seeing fluff. So the second go round, I didn't vote for Obama.
You know, it's funny, in those two elections, McCain, I didn't vote for McCain. I didn't vote for Obama. I did a write-in. Yeah. Because I just couldn't vote for either one of them. My own convictions, and again, my convictions have always been the same place since I came to know the Lord. So it's, where do you stand on abortion? Where do you stand on marriage? Where do you stand on fiscal responsibility? Which I think the Republicans and Democrats stink at. And so I've struggled with debt and the government being in debt. Still don't like it. I want that to change somehow. But those were the three things I always looked at.
Oh, well, I will say my only issue that I really, really struggle with, and you know, I think I mentioned it to you before, is that as I grew in my Christian walk and I became pro-life, I was like, okay, I'm against abortion, right? But what I struggle with is, okay, who am I to vote into law to make everybody pro-life? Mm-hmm. That was the one thing I struggled with, because I'm like,
gotta change. It has to change for the heart.
Right. My thing is, okay, I'm pro-life. I believe everybody should be pro-life. Mm-hmm. However, should I vote for the person who's going to sit there and say, you can't get an abortion?
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, you would say, well,
that's a libertarian point of view,
right? But my view is a little deep, because, like I said, I look at it like, okay, God gave me the right to choose. Mm-hmm. So if I take away your right to choose, I'm basically saying I'm better than God. I know better than God.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, I don't think I should vote to take away somebody else's right to choose. Mm-hmm. I just think I should try to convince and persuade those to be convicted to say you should be pro-life as well. Yep.
And so I take the libertarian view on this thing. No money should be given to anything in this area. Yeah. In the government. No government money should go towards anything. Yeah. Churches should raise money up for organizations that want to bring life, and or other organizations that want to bring death. They can pay for that, but not the government.
Not the government. The government.
I don't think the government should be at all, because I believe we have to change the heart. Yep. And I believe that when that government is out of it, when the government has their hands out of it, we're going to win that argument.
Definitely.
By far. Definitely. So, I'm in agreement with that. I don't want to see any abortions take place, but what I want to do is not have the government in it at all.
Correct. I don't want the government to dictate to say you can or can't do X, Y, Z. I know for some it's hard to swallow whether you're pro-life or whether you're feel like abortion is the right thing because well, I made a mistake. Well, guess what? We all make mistakes.
We all make mistakes. That you don't. Here's with me, and this again, Tanya, single mom, made a decision to keep Shayna and Carrie, and both of those girls, brought us grandkids, and not only that is that they lived lives, And so, her family, part of her family was saying, go get an abortion.
Yeah.
But it was her heart that got changed by Christ. That's how it got changed. I don't want to have anything that's legislated that's saying this is a great thing. It's not. It's death. It's killing somebody.
Definitely.
And so that's why I struggle with anybody that's going to want to have government support for that.
No.
Why are you voting for that?
Exactly.
And so I brought that up. And matter of fact, some of our leaders in the church right now who were liberal when they came here, when I said, just go research it. Yeah. And they researched it and went, oh my gosh, what am I doing?
Yeah.
So that's one. That's why I think with the black community in general, I'm just aiming at that community because the Hispanic community is kind of a split mix. That's actually, they're a little more conservative because there's a lot of Catholicism, a Catholic side of it in there.
Yep.
But the black church is a powerful thing. It is a powerful thing.
Yep.
And I really struggle with pastors that are not going to stand on these issues and don't take the roles that they need to take.
Correct.
So that's one. Marriage. I know that the guys that I was sitting with, the pastor I was with, were not for anything other than biblical marriage. Now, but they'll never talk about it. These guys said they never talked about marriage in the church from the pulpit.
Yeah.
I said, why? Why? And I said, what about abortion? Have you ever talked about that? No. Why? And the answer, I already knew the answer, that they didn't want their parishioners to leave.
Correct.
Now, I'm not saying all black pastors, and I'm not saying there's a bunch of white pastors that do this too. They don't stand on anything. They want to make sure that people are comfortable. So we have these political things that are biblical issues that we both get. But let's go back to the 1960s. Before that, the history of the black community being brought up, and after the civil rights movement, you still had communities where you could drive, a white kid could drive in the same place as a black kid, and the black kid would be pulled over rather than the white kid.
Yep.
And we're now in 2025.
You still have these issues. So
what is nothing stopped it? I don't get it.
So the problem now is that we're trying to suppress what's still there.
Yeah.
You have all these things where people are like, well, you can't be this or that way. But the problem is everybody is focusing on the surface.
Yes.
Right? They're not actively changing hearts and thoughts.
Yep.
Right? So in the black community, people understand you have to have the talk with your kids.
Absolutely.
Right? And some people are like, well, what do you mean? What's the talk? Well, if you get confronted by a cop, you are to do X, Y, Z because you're fearful of your life.
Yep.
Okay. This is one of the type of things I got to have with my son RJ, because obviously he goes to a predominantly white school. He's
brilliant, by the way.
Yeah. He has a bunch of friends that are all predominantly white.
Yeah. And
we worry that we like, RJ, don't think that you can do everything that your friends can do.
Mm-mm.
And as a kid, they don't get that. They don't understand that.
No.
Right? But if you know my son, he's a little bigger than most kids his age.
Yep.
And you might have that one random person who doesn't know him.
Yep.
That sees in one of his friends, there's a lot of female friends, white female friends, and they may be playing too much, and that one white person may come along and misinterpret that situation.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
You may have that one cop that comes and misinterprets that situation, right? And so I would be doing my son a disservice as a black father, say, son, these things truly exist. And I remember when I first had this first conversation with him, and when he went to school and started learning about some of these things, and he was like, why would they do this? Kids are innocent.
No, I agree with him.
Kids are innocent.
Why?
Why would they do this?
It's a sinful nature.
And it's, you have that talk, and obviously, you teach them like, okay, first of all, they're not all that way.
Yeah.
If I felt that way, I would not go to this church.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
all white people are not bad people. Pastor Dave is not a bad person, right? However, you do have those bad apples. Yeah. And not to say that you don't have bad apples in the black community.
I'll tell you a story after this. I'll tell you.
Yeah. But these are the things that you're constantly cognizant of. One of the things that I'm cognizant of is when I go back home. Believe it or not, when I go back home, I have a total different attitude. It's very hard to describe, but I'm more on edge. I'm more focused about my surroundings. I'm more self-aware. I'm more aggressive because I don't want to be viewed as, okay, I don't know the area. I'm not from the area.
Yep.
So, even though I've moved away, I've already been ingrained with certain things.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Things that my son will never understand.
No.
And guess what?
And that's actually a good thing.
That's a good thing. I gave him the life that he has, so he wouldn't have to deal with what I dealt with and everything.
That's right.
He's going to deal with different things.
That's right.
And I pray for him then. Rita prays for me.
Be wise, my friend.
She worries about her baby. Trust me.
Yes.
So
be wise, my friend.
Yeah.
RJ's awesome. But for me, I went when I was 18 years old. A guy named Greg I worked with. And Greg was the head of the largest fraternity. Okay. On San Jose State's campus, black fraternity. I didn't know they had black and white fraternities, but I didn't know anything about that stuff because no one in my family went to college, right? So I was one of the first ones to go, and that was a couple of years down the line after I worked for a little bit, and went, "This stinks. My friends are saying go," so I went and did that. Now, I go. He goes, "Hey, I want you to come to this party." Sure, let's go. Get over there. And I walk in, and there's people everywhere, like a typical fraternity sorority party, right?
Yep.
I'm the one white guy in the entire place. I walk in, and I'm going, all right. I don't care. So I just walk in, but I hadn't had anybody say something to me before.
Right.
And I'm walking in. Greg's introducing me to people, and then a couple of guys came over. And let's just say they didn't say the nicest words in the world to me. Yeah. And they were racist. I'm flat out racist guys. And I got that. I just went, okay, yeah. By the way, as I know, there's a racist in every culture, in every group, everywhere.
Definitely.
My friends, I had Japanese friends. And if someone called them Chinese, you want to talk about a couple of guys blowing up and getting upset and saying, I'm not a China man. And I was going, wait a second. Okay, yes, there is prejudice everywhere.
Definitely.
And so, but, I had a great time. It was fun, but I was definitely the one guy there. But my wife would say, I'll go into any community. I don't care.
Yeah.
If you don't like me, you don't like me. That's on you, and I'm not going to let that cause me. But I didn't grow up in that.
Correct.
Meaning, I didn't grow up with that happening all the time.
Correct.
Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, there were different groups that would say stuff, but it was like, okay, whatever. But, but having a hammer of maybe somebody ingraining you are less than, or someone ingraining you are more than.
Yep.
Right? Because I was told that I was a low-life scumbag who's, pasty was the word actually, and that I don't need to belong in here.
Correct.
And I was like, well, Greg invited me.
Hey,
and he was the head guy. So Greg just goes, shut up, and just told him to leave, and just kept on introducing me. And he was a great guy, brilliant. And he was pretty good at basketball. You would appreciate it. Back then, I could still dunk. So he called me the one white guy that he knew could dunk. And yes, white man can dunk. Yes. So, but that was the joke. But I could see why you would do that with RJ if we, like our grandsons, played for Hillsborough High School, predominantly a black team. And when he came on it, some of the coaches, couple of coaches weren't real big on him being on that team, and they were bringing him to be the quarterback.
Yeah.
Right? And so they're bringing this white kid on to play quarterback, the leader, on a predominantly black team.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to have some problems right off the bat.
Yeah.
But
especially if somebody feels slighted.
Correct. But if you can earn it, and you show you earn it, which he did, there was no one even close to him playing quarterback there. And he went there because some of the fastest guys in the county went there, and he happened to live in that community, so he could go.
Yep.
And he wanted to be there to throw to these guys. Matter of fact, I was telling you, one of the guys was Arian Knighton. he went to the Olympics in the 200. I mean, that's kind of nice to throw to.
Yes.
Yeah, when you can throw a bomb and he thinks he's throwing it 70 yards and the kid still outruns it. I mean,
it's crazy.
Yeah, nuts. But so there is a cultural thing that your son's in. He has a different tone of skin.
Mm-hmm.
And we have, people obviously from Brazil and Puerto Rico, but mostly Hispanic people within this group. And some of them could get away with almost getting away with, if they didn't have their accent, being white.
Correct.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So we have almost 10 languages spoken in this church. But most of the people can kind of get away with being in the community and not looking fully darker.
Correct.
Here we go. Just put your hand. See? It's kind of different.
Yep.
I wish I had his tan. I do not. So I get burned all the time, and my wife says I reflect light when I go to the beach. I hate that. But the bottom line is you have to do that. My dad's conversation with me was, David, you better be respectful to every police officer you run into. And because you have long hair, you will have problems at night. Just know it. And I went, all right. Didn't think much of that because he was a military guy. So his hair was always, you know what I mean? All buzzed down and all that stuff. Dad was. And that was just something, if you're going to look different, you're going to need to be aware. Now mine, I could cut my hair and that can go away.
Correct.
You can't really get rid of the skin color.
No.
So that's why when I brought up the George Floyd, instead of going, we didn't have a bunch of people tear things down because of Charlie Kirk. And Charlie Kirk, you wouldn't know who he was, for one, because you're not in the college campuses. The only reason why I know is because of my grandsons.
Correct.
That was the only reason why I knew who the guy was.
Correct.
And he was going on to campuses because he believed the civil rights of people were being taken on these college campuses. Just found out I was wrong. I thought the percentage was 92 to 8%, 92 liberal, 8% conservative professors on all the campuses of the United States. It's not that. We just found out today, 97 and 3.
I can see that, though.
That's a problem.
I can see that.
Yeah, that is a problem. Your civil rights. When I was in California, and California does everything before everybody else. So California has come across the country. That's what it's done. When I was at Chico State, when I had my Fellowship of Christian Athletes shirt on, because I started it and got it going on campus, I was a brand new believer. My professors flat out told me they do not like what I stand for, don't want anything to do with what I stand for, and you better be doing a whole lot more than them, or your grade's going to get hurt. And I went, wow, okay, I'm prepared for it. So I got prepared for that. I was ready for it.
Correct.
Now it's worse. And so for me back then, having that happen, I was told when I was going to do my master's degree, nothing like what you went through. But when I went through my master's degree, the professors I had to go through, because you have to go through a gauntlet of people to get through, and do your thesis and perform your thesis. I had professors say, you're not going to get this across. We're not going to let you get this across. Because what I did is I took the history of a Christian organization, a Christian sports organization, and I was getting a degree in physical education. These guys did this to me. And so they said, one of my professors, who happened to be one of the very few Christians, said, you need to make sure you do this better than everybody else. So my thesis was 235 pages long. Back then, when you typed, no computer.
Took forever.
Yeah. And I had to interview people around the world for this. And the interviews were not like today. I had to do a tape recorder, get on the phone and tape them, type it all out, send it to them. They had to redline it and all that stuff, send it back to me. I put it in, send it back to them, and then they sent it back for total approval.
It's amazing. The technology is amazing, isn't it?
Yes. And so, but they told me this was going to be a problem.
Yeah.
But I was able to get across. I had to work my butt off. And then when I went off to seminary, I had left the coaching position I had as an undergrad or a graduate student over at Chico State. I was doing some recruiting for the track team. Went down to go to seminary. Everything fell apart in 1990. The economy just dropped. When that dropped, the guys that were supporting me couldn't support me anymore. They were done. Their businesses were going under. I came back up to try to get my job. Couldn't get my job. I had to work 5 jobs. I'm not complaining. I worked 5 little jobs to pay for my new wife and a new family. And I remember one of the guys laughing at me and literally saying, when he saw me out there mowing lawns, "Where's your God now?"
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, of course, when I saw this happen with Charlie Kirk, I went into full militant mode.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't break anything. I didn't do anything rash.
Mm-hmm.
But my wife had to calm me down. I was upset. And that's small
Mm-hmm.
compared to what the black community dealt with for years and still dealing with.
Well, because you're looking at a person whose ideas align with yours.
Yes.
And the black community is looking at a systemic issue within a large institution.
Correct.
Right. And it happens over and over again. And honestly, like I said, I'm a very rational person.
Sure.
I typically don't. I don't argue with emotion.
Yeah. Right.
I really don't. I say, look, boom, boom, boom. Here are the facts. This is what we're talking about. Yep. Logic, right? And yes, I do take the perspective at times. I'm like, okay, so what was going on? So if you had not been in that situation, sure, this would not have happened.
Sure.
Right? I get that. I'm not condoning bad behavior. However, did that person deserve to die?
No.
Right? Were there circumstances surrounding that particular individual that drove that? I mean,
yeah.
you think about it. You know, we're here in Florida. We have the whole Trayvon Martin issue.
Yes.
Right? Stand your ground, this, that, and the third. Great. Right? I am a concealed permit carrying, gun toting individual. I'm all about standing my ground. I got you.
You're a true Floridian in that side of things.
However, when I look at that situation, I'm like, so you had a kid, black kid,
yep.
in a nice neighborhood,
yep.
who you had a white guy who thought that he didn't belong there, right? And he followed him, even to the point that 911 told him, do not
follow him. Do not follow him.
No,
do not follow him at all.
And then when he did confront him, he proceeded to get beat up.
Yep.
And then shot him.
Yep.
Right? And you look at all the people who tried to assassinate the kid's character. Well, he got busted for smoking weed. What does that have to do with him being attacked by this guy?
Had nothing to do with it.
Who, let's call it for what it is, was a punk himself, because
yes, he was.
Had he not been carrying a gun, would he have ever confronted him?
No.
Right?
No, he would have never.
He would have never confronted him to begin with.
Well, and the whole idea of stand your ground is not about, I'm going to chase somebody down.
No.
That's not what it is.
That's not what it's about.
It's about someone attacking you.
Correct.
And you have the right to protect yourself and your family.
Correct.
That's pretty much all it is.
But
that made no sense to
me. You look at all the people that sat there and rallied behind George Zimmerman. Look at all the folks who say, well, that kid deserved to die.
No.
You know, well, he was a thug, this and that. No. So what in that particular situation happened that made him a thug? He was visiting his father who lived there. Why? Let me guess, because he had a hood on. Okay. Mm-hmm. But the fact is that no one got upset about it except the black community. And you're thinking like, well, why not? It was a kid who, I guess he was tall, right? And so you look at it from a black person's perspective. You look at it from my perspective.
So he gets shot because he's tall.
Right. So is that my son in that situation?
Correct.
Who's
Correct.
walking around my neighborhood where somebody may, think he's a threat and then shoot him?
Yes.
Right? Those are the type of things that we as black people see. And then after a while, it's like you feel like you're not heard.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, I got to do something. And I've tried everything else and I'm still not being heard.
Yeah, I've had enough.
Exactly.
We got to do something.
We got to do something.
I'm blowing up. Yep.
But conversely, though, as a black person, you look at the Capitol riots.
Oh yeah, horrible.
And I'm like, okay, that for me, honestly, I voted for Trump the first time. I didn't vote for him the second time because I looked at that. I'm like, are you for real? Where's outrage then?
Yep.
No one can tell me and truly believe in their heart, if that was a mob of black people assaulting the Capitol, the results would have been the same.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that Donald Trump would have been pardoning all these people who rioted at the Capitol.
Sure.
And then you wonder, like, okay, so you wonder why black people have an attitude about things, like, because if it was the same situation, you wouldn't have got the same results.
And it's funny, and I like hearing that. For me, as a conservative, a conservative white man, I guess that'd be a better way to put it. When I saw the riots, for one, wrong, completely wrong.
Definitely.
Don't go in. Don't do that. I know that there wasn't a lot of damage. I mean, a lot of people, but it was still, no one was bringing guns in. There was no guns going in there. It was not an insurrection. Bottom line, the military guys in here, black, white, Hispanic, whatever, they go, that was not an insurrection. Bottom line, insurrection would have been, they would have shot everyone down.
Definitely.
Brought all their machine guns in and took out everybody.
Definitely.
And so it wasn't that. But what it was, and here's where you have conservatives getting caught up into it, is that you have a party that was taking rights away from people and has been doing it for a while here on the conservative side. And honestly, a lot of people thought that vote was rigged, completely rigged. And honestly, I still wonder if it is. Now, here's the reason why. The amount of undocumented people that came in the United States.
Oh, definitely.
And that just causes problems for people.
Yeah.
You know, they don't trust the government then. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. And so the government, it really, and I believe social media, wants people to fight against each other.
Of course.
Because if they fight against each other, then we don't come up with a solution and go, wait a second, where's the real problem here? What's going on here? What's the real problem?
Of course.
And so that's something that I think my hope is in the next 20 years, that's my hope, is that we have those dialogues. The dialogues, like you're saying, the riots going into the Capitol. Guys that know security and our guys that are military people, going that, for one, that should have never happened. Should have never got that. Those people should never even be able to get to that place. There was no reason for those people to even get close to breaking into that place. And out of everyone that died on that, there was one person that died. One. And that was an ex-military female who was shot, and that was it. No one else. The other people that they said died on there, they died later on of heart attacks. Some of them, none of them died on the property. It was that one person that died, female. And so you got a lot of people that are ticked off because they're going, wait a second, why did you even let that happen, for one? But it's nothing different from what happened in the 1960s as far as I'm concerned. Government sucks people in, gets them going on doing something crazy, and they do something stupid. Now, should they be convicted? Yes.
Definitely.
Should have been convicted. They went into the White House or into the Capitol. No, zero. No one does that.
Exactly.
This is our country, United States of America. Should not happen.
Exactly. Not to mention, what does that tell the rest of the world?
Correct.
So.
And the problem is that our politicians are not getting the same treatment. The person in charge of that was the Speaker of the House. And the Speaker of the House happened to be Nancy Pelosi, who just let that go. And that is a problem. And we all know it, but these politicians will never get in trouble. None of them will be convicted, even though they're talking about convicting people. It's not going to happen, Rashad.
No.
Not going to happen.
We're going to be distracted by the next issue.
Correct.
Of course.
And so the goal is to at least have conversation. So Tim and I were talking. You guys, we've had Tim on here before. We talked a lot about music and stuff. Tim is younger than us. He has a different perspective, to say the least.
Definitely.
And he came from a different family life than probably you and I came from. So Rashad came from a divorced family. But his dad took on all you guys.
Definitely.
Degreed in LSU. He was in the military for a little bit, I believe.
A little bit.
Correct? And so there was some discipline that you guys had in your home. Right? Were there things that he would tell you, these are non-negotiables, you do not do? So you told one, do not go outside. But were there things that he just said, as a man, this is what you are supposed to do? Because you have certain man things that you say, this is how we are to do. My son's going to do certain things.
Well,
where did that come from?
Well, I will say that a lot of things that I do with RJ is because I didn't get them from my father.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm a.
Where'd you get that then?
I'm a pretty independent thinker.
Okay.
You know, I typically run with the underdogs. I typically stand on my own, but I think I do that now as an adult because when I was younger, I sought to blend in. I sought to fit in.
Okay.
And because I was always an outsider. My father, he always called me and my siblings gypsies because we moved around a lot when we were younger, right? He's like, you don't truly have a true home. Yeah, I lived in Baltimore the majority of my, I like to call my impressionable years.
Okay.
You know, I moved to Baltimore as a young teenager, and where I lived at was very high fashion. Like I said, I lived in a middle class area. Well, guess what? The kids had the clothes. Mm-hmm. And because I was denied those things as a kid, I desired what they had. But my father also taught me to, you know, just by his actions, you get everything by working for it.
Sure.
No one hands you anything, right? So that was me saying, okay, they have it, I want it, I got to figure out how to get it. So you kind of have those two things kind of going there. You know, when I was younger, my father, he wasn't there a lot, but not in the sense of what you would think. My father worked to take care of us, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I was telling my wife the other night, you know, in retrospect, he gave me the one true thing that I needed at that time, which was accountability and freedom, right? My father, when I left my mother, she had me call my father and say, you know, tell him you want to come live with him. And at that point in time, I was very fearful of my father because my father was always gone. The only time I see my father, because I was kind of a rebellious kid, I got beatings for something or another.
There we go.
And trust me, everybody, every beating I got from my father was totally justified. I earned every one of them.
Hey, I did too.
Okay. and so as a kid, like I said, at this point, I'm 12.
Yeah.
My only perception is that only time I see him is when I get beat, so he's a bad guy.
Okay.
But, you know, my childhood was very, very rough. You know, that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
But I said, all right, I'm gonna live with him and everything. And my father did what a lot of men wouldn't have done. At this point in time, I'm in Louisiana. They found my father. He had moved to Baltimore. They called him up, says, hey, your son is here. Do you want to come get him? And my father, living in a 2-bedroom apartment with his girlfriend and her 3 daughters, said, okay, that's my son. I will go get him.
Wow.
Right? He didn't sit there and abandon me. He didn't sit there and say, well, that's for him and his mother to figure out or any of that stuff. He said, that's my kid. I will come get him.
Wow.
And he drove from Baltimore down to Louisiana and picked me up. Right? Following year, same thing with my sister and my brother. He didn't even know where to put us legitimately. I mean, at this point now, his girlfriend, you know, her daughters, they got a little older because her youngest daughter was 3 years older than me. But the daughters, they had wanted to move it out. I got the bedroom, and then my son was moving in with me. So it isn't like he had room to put us, but however, his mindset was, they're my kids. They want to be with me. I will come get my kids. And so I have a strong male role model to say, you take care of your kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
You figure it out, you take care of your kids, right?
Yeah, high respect on that.
So he taught me that. He showed me the work ethic. It isn't like he sat down and had these talks with me. Boy, get out there, you work for. No,
he just showed it.
He showed me by going to work every day, working all day, all hours of the day.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I said, finally gave me that freedom. I was very oppressed as a kid. So when I came to Baltimore, he gave me this freedom that a lot of kids take for granted. And so since he wasn't really there a whole lot because he was always working and things of that nature, I started to grow up to understand the things that I would want to see, you know, the things that I would, you know, if I had kids, these are the things I would pass on to my kids. So yeah, you know, am I perfect in it? Far, far from it.
Sure.
Right? My wife will remind me at times when I'm failing. A lot of times when I'm failing.
Our wives do that all the time.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing.
But, you know, I would like to believe that I'm there for my kids when they need me.
Yep.
Right?
Yes, sir.
And I showed them these things because, like I said, there were a lot of things my father didn't have. And he would tell you himself, you're like, you know, obviously coming from your generation, he's like, I was a breadwinner.
Yep.
And, you know, your mother, she was a homemaker. Yep. She said, and raised kids. So he didn't understand that side of the emotional connection.
Yeah.
And so I didn't understand it, but I understood that it was missing too. Right. And so now I try to be a little softer with my kids. However, they do have their mother there. Yep. And I tend to say, hey, there, you handle the emotional side. Let me handle the structure side. Yeah. I'm a very logical person.
Yep.
So
Yep.
boom, 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 boom,
Yep.
boom, boom, boom.
Yep, makes sense. So that's the I think the key to everything. If we can get our families with accountability, respect,
Yep.
and a freedom to go and do what you need to do,
Yep.
I think that's where we could center things around
Yep.
and get our families to do that, and get not only our families but then our communities, our churches. I don't know politically, but
That never happened.
Yeah, I know, but at least we could try to do something else with that. So respect, accountability, freedom, good things to be.
Just and just a general
An understanding of where everybody's coming from.
General awareness of that. There are different perspectives from your own. And,
Absolutely.
And honestly, I think a lot of people they're very, very narrow in their thought process.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I'll give you an example, and I'm sure everybody can relate. You can come up with an idea or a solution, and you think it's the only way it can be done. And I mean, you can sit there and think that you've looked at it from all angles, like this is the only way this can be done, or this is the best way.
Yeah.
And then somebody else can say something, and you'll be like, why didn't I think of that?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It wasn't anything complicated. It's just like, really? That's it. And you recognize that it's a great idea, right?
Absolutely.
And you're like, why didn't I think of it? And again, these are my personal opinions. It's because based on your experiences, your surroundings, you've been molded to think a certain way.
Yes.
And because you've been molded to think that a certain way, you can only see things a certain way.
Yes.
Right? So when you only see things a certain way, you can't even understand that there's a different perspective that could be just as right as yours or even better because you just can't see it.
Yep.
And honestly, that's kind of what I see, even from a racial standpoint, that because I've experienced so many different things, I'm like, okay, my perspective is a lot broader than most. Mm-hmm. I've lived in the hood. I've lived in mixed neighborhoods. I've lived in predominantly white neighborhoods.
Sure.
I've lived in poor neighborhoods. I lived in a little high, middle class. I won't say upper middle class or elite because that's a whole nother thing.
That is totally different.
But and that's why I wanted to approach you about it, because I'm like,
thought that was awesome.
I just like, okay, there is a bigger scope there.
Yes.
And I have a different angle. Not to say that I'm right or wrong, but just be able to take this into consideration.
Yes.
If you say something, just understand that it's not going to have the same impact.
Yep. With everybody.
With everybody.
Yeah.
This person right here, it may resonate. Yes, I totally agree.
Yep.
But this person, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. And I see that on every sermon I do.
Mm-hmm.
It's because everybody's perspective is different. Their backgrounds are different.
Yeah.
You may go, oh yeah, amen, hallelujah. And my wife's going, what the heck are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so it's really interesting to kind of see that. That just tells us we just need to do a lot more communicating and talking and kind of figuring out, because neither of us grew up in the same perspective, same neighborhoods, same communities, same mindset, same anything. I mean, it just didn't. And by the way, none of us do.
No.
And so that's the.
But you got to be self-aware, though.
Yes.
That's the thing.
Yes.
You got to be self-aware that you're not going to always be right in your line of thinking, and you got to be willing to. You got to be a little open-minded to see it a different way.
Yes, absolutely.
So.
Absolutely, I love that. All right. Oh my gosh, we went an hour. What am I doing with a talker?
I'm supposed to be playing basketball.
All right. Well, that's it for today. We'll do some more talks like this. This is always cool to get different perspectives. I know some of my people from Brazil are wanting to do a podcast with me because their perspectives are totally different. They come from a socialist point of view.
Wow.
And so, really different. So we'll get different people in here. Thank you, Rashad, for coming in and talking. And thank you for coming to my office, for one.
Yeah.
God bless you all. Remember, the number one thing that we could always be centered on is Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and life. And the only way we get to heaven is through him. If you want to know more about that, please talk to us by just email or texting us by the information we have in our notes. God bless you all. Take it easy. Remember, today is your favorite day.
Thank you for listening to TIMFD, Today is My Favorite Day. Views, comments, and opinions are those of the host and guest alone. TIMFD is produced and directed by Alex Korn. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, live intentionally, and be very blessed.